Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himavadivyascha Visundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Yes.
I have a question from Devendra Prabhu
Yes.
of the Godhead. Why is God not interested in being God?
Hare Krishna. Part of it is revealed in the question. The word God, generic, abstract, nebulous. It's not clear what is meant by that, other than, more in terms of omniscient, omnipotent, nothing to embrace or be embraced, embrace. So, we hear from Srila Guru Maharaj that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not like to use this word. So we'll see in his books, and you see in Prabhupada's books very often. I mean, we do use it, but Godhead was more broad and encompassing. And Prabhupada's Saraswati Thakur, personality of Godhead, Srila Prabhupada's Swami Maharaj, supreme personality of Godhead. So it sounds, like a little for the infinite and to accommodate all the manifestations, avatars, incarnations, the Godhead. But so we could say, why is it that the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, is not interested in the conventional role we assign to God? Right? And for all of its glory, the Sistine Chapel, I'm now going to offend the entire nation of Italy. I mean, it's beautiful and everything, but God is not beautiful. He's not. That's just, you can say, well, that's my opinion. It's my opinion. What I see does not look like a beautiful person to me. And as silly, because he's God, he has a big, long, it's just, I mean, you would think Leonardo could do better. Like I remember when someone did a painting of Mahaprabhu or something, and one of the devotees at the Mat saw, and he said, even ordinary people look more beautiful. It's like, what is this? Like it's supposed to be God. You saw this old man up, it's just, we understand he was obsessed with anatomy and cadavers and that kind of thing, and you can see it on the ceiling. So that is not Krishna conception. Why would Krishna want to do that? Definitely not. And like we heard recently, Advaita Acharya and Nityananda, and so like Advaita Acharya, and he said his day job is Mahavishnu. He has innumerable universes coming out of his pores, lying in yoga nidra. His outward, his exhale is 150 trillion years. His inhale is 150 trillion years. And what is his interest? When Nimai Pandit says, I want to dance as Devi at the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya and Advaita Acharya, what role do I get to play? That's so beautiful. That's the sort of participation he wants. This loving exchange you cannot love the impersonal. You can be wowed by it, or astonished, or, like, what is it? Like adbhuta. That sort of feeling can come to you. Like when we see the sky, it's so beautiful, but it's non-embraceable. You can't have a personal relationship with something that is abstract or impersonal. So, and even like why people name their vehicles, they give it some kind of a personal name, a female name or something like that. It's kind of a running thing with them, But it's not real. I know in some languages about pronouns, and I'm not dealing with that. So, God, as conventionally conceived, is like a creator. And you see, within Krishna conception, it's a relegated secondary aspect. It's not his direct concern. And you think, well, then what is he concerned? Because from the Western point of view, this is it. Whether from a theistic point of view or atheistic point of view, this obsession with creation, right, of the objective world. Right? So, not so in Krishna conception. Guru Maharaj will say, when, God, the conception of God, because as we can say, we can now define it in various ways, because we said, as I said in the beginning, the term is abstract, generic, non-specific. So then we start trying to define that and say, well, God means this or God means that. Guru Maharaj will say, when God, the conception of God reaches the plane of love, that's Krishna conception. Right? And as we're approaching Gaur Purnima, it's very appropriate because in the pages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam, the most candid revelations are there from Krishna in the introductory chapters to explain why it is that Krishna is descending as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So perhaps it's in chapter 4 of Adi Leela, where it's saying, the world is full of Aishwarya Gyan in terms of divinity. We're going to deal with divinity, right? And that's the question. For those who disbelieve, that's another thing. But for those who do, he's saying, Aishwarya Gyan, they're overwhelmed by knowledge of my majestic aspect. Someone might say, well, what other aspect is there? That's described in the pages of the Bhagavatam and in Charitamritam. But Aishwarya Gyan, knowledge of the majestic aspect of divinity, that necessarily limits reciprocation or appreciation, reciprocal appreciation, to awe and reverence, which is not inappropriate. But on reverential devotion is not like love proper. So there we find Krishna saying, if on account of being overwhelmed by my majestic aspect that, what's the word, stymie the heart from expressing itself fully, then he says, I'm disappointed, and what that cannot bring me under its control. Right? Maybe I say, but wait, Ishvara Parama Krishna, the supreme controller, seeks to come under the control of someone. Is that right? Is that good? That the supreme controller could come under the control of someone who's less than supreme? Is that a good thing, or beneficial, or unthinkable, or nonsensical, irrational? But here, the Chaitanya Charitamritam is unparalleled in these candid expressions from Krishna. And he's saying, so, that may be good for that person. Right? They're expressing reverential feelings and being overwhelmed by the majestic aspect of divinity. He's saying, but that's not the kind of sentiment that brings me under its control. So in other words, it's very good for them. It's, what did he say? Why is he not what?
Why is God not interested
in being God? Because there's no heart, real flow of heart there. Right? So then he starts revealing a little bit more when he talks about Sakya rasa. He says, when my friends, and we're playing, and they say, you're not such a big man. Right? He's the infinite. Right? His, Balaram, the quadruple expansions, second quadruple expansions, the Purusha avatars, innumerable universes, Vaikuntha planets, for someone to say, you're not such a big man. Right? And I bet I could defeat you. Now these are not, insulting statements when they come from someone whose heart is so pure, the heart flow is so pure as to eclipse and suppress Aishwarya Gyan, or the majestic aspect. And that in itself is something mind-blowing and inconceivable. How you could be in the presence of God and forget that. Right. So, again, in chapter 4, by the influence of Yogamaya, these things are possible. It's a function of Yogamaya. You only have two choices. Be under the influence of Yogamaya or the influence of Mahamaya. So under the influence of Yogamaya, this sort of loving exchange can be facilitated. So they think, you're not such a big man. I could defeat you. Ye prayaso jita jito piyasi taistrilokyam. In the prayers of Brahma, saying Krishna is ajita, he's unconquerable, yet devotion can conquer him. Right? Who is unconquerable? Devotion has such power to conquer the unconquerable. For the infinite to come under the control of the finite. For the infinite to become subservient to the finite. That's why he has no interest in being God in the conventional sense. He's interested in this. As I mentioned the other day, people are always talking about, merging into the light or into the infinite. And I get that up to a degree from this side. But what I find more interesting is is there any circumstance or would there be any instance where the infinite would want to merge in the finite? That, to me, is a more interesting thing to consider. We're interested in, in the impossible. What's possible is possible. The impossible is more compelling. So Srila Rupa Goswami says, Kleshagni Subhada Moksha Laguta Krit Sandrananda Visheshatma Sri Krishna Karshini Chasa Akarshan, all attractive, irresistibly all attractive, central conception of the infinite, the human-like, Yang Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarup Krishna, is irresistibly drawn in attraction to the heart that has a bhakti rasa flow of devotion. The infinite becomes subordinate to the finite. The infinite comes under the control of the finite. The supreme, the positive, comes under the control of the negative. And by extension, the supreme negative, which means Sri Radhika. And all devotion is being transacted through her. So she is irresistible, and in all her extensions and manifestations. Ananda Chenmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tadbirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalavi Goloka Eva Nivisatya Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Maripurusham Tamaham Vajami. And so when they play, so how charming is this and irresistible to Krishna, that he's with someone and it's non-offensive, right? So by the influence of Yoga Maya, the majestic aspect is suppressed, and this person thinks they're equal to him and can even defeat him. How irresistibly charming is that? And then they play, and Krishna is defeated by the devotee. And it does not say, then Krishna pretends he's defeated by the devotee. It doesn't say that. Ye prayaso jita jito piyasi taistrailokyam, saying he is defeated. That we have to try and understand. Imagine that. The infinite is defeated by the finite because they have this Krishna Bhakti Rasa. And he becomes subservient to them. He's brought under control. Not pretending to. He's actually defeated and actually brought under their control. Although it was announced in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Janmadyasya yaton bayad itaratas cha arteshu abhigya svarat, that he's totally independent. God, Ishwar, etc. But if you keep reading the book, he says, Ahang bhakta paradino yasvan tantra eva dveja sadhu bir bhakta hridayo bhaktayar bhakta janapriya. In the presence of devotion, I lose my independence. So how powerful is love. When God concept reaches the domain of love, it's Krishna conception. It's not that love, there's love like in this world, and then there's some other kind of love there's just prem. Love and prem are the same. We're just, whatever, the love of this world is but a perverted reflection of that divine substance. Even still, we see its power here. Right? Like Gurma say, we can say the man who has his finger on the nuclear button has some cute little daughter and she can go, "Daddy," and like pull him around the house like a toy. Why? He's so great, and she's just a little girl, but he's conquered by her love and affection. She's not aware of his so-called greatness or power. She's unaware of that. So if you can understand that, how that works, then it gives you a hint of how this works. And you're saying, but how can you forget you're with God? By the influence of Yoga Maya, by the overwhelming flow of Krishna Bhakti Rasa from the heart. That's how powerful it is. And we know, for example, the Garud, the beautiful eagle-like carrier of Vishnu and Krishna, and so many passings. It looks so beautiful riding, Which country calls them Garuda? Their airline?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Indonesia, right? Garuda Airways. There's also on the Thai money, if you look carefully. And how ecstatic Garuda is to feel the lotus feet and the weight of the Lord on his shoulders as he's flying, soaring. It's such a beautiful concept. And even when we see in the Bhagavatam when Satyabhama and Rukmini, the passage about the Parijata, one got a flower, one wanted a tree. And on Garuda, the Parijata, incredibly, divine, mystical Parijata tree is acquired. But so sometimes the Lord and with his divine consort, right? So how happy Garuda is soaring. But Krishna, as we see in the Bhagavatam, it's there when they have this play with the cowherd boys, being defeated. The victors ride on the shoulders of the defeated. So then here, Krishna is saying, now we have a reversal, a role reversal. Now the devotee is riding on the shoulders and Krishna's flying. He's in ecstasy at the feel of the feet and the weight of the devotee on his shoulders. That's why he's not interested in being God in the conventional sense of the term. He's the Lord of heart, not of gyan, karma, yoga. Those things, no interest from really. That's the other side, they benefit from that. He's not benefiting from that. You can't give something to Krishna, actually. Don't tell him. Only things with heart. Like when Vaman Dev's asking, from Bali Maharaj, these 3 steps of land, and then 1 step, cover half, a 2nd step, everything, the whole 3 world, they've been covered. So if you realize in another aspect, like we said, Mahavishnu, innumerable universes are being created, manifested. Why would he, who can do that, who can sweat universes, what's he so interested in getting this one universe for? It doesn't make any sense, right? Because that's not his interest. His interest is taking that, yasyaham anugranami harishe tadanam shanai. To whom Krishna favors, he takes everything away from them that's distracting them from dedicating themselves, heart and soul, to the service of his lotus feet. So, really, in the third step, he gets what he wants. And what is that when Bali Maharaj says that? Put your lotus feet on my head. Hare Krishna. So the heart of Bali Maharaj, it says, target. Hare Krishna. And like that, also, I just heard Guru Maharaj say that, like, at any moment, Yamaraj can just yank you out of the world. In other words, you'll be dead. He said, so with this in mind, approach your seva. And I've said this a few times, like, throughout the last year, normally, like someone knows someone who might be sick or ill or who died or this or that or might have an individual, In the last year, everybody woke up one day with the same realization that they could die. Like on the same day. That's interesting. And every single person in the world, so to speak, had that shared realization at the same time. I was saying, he wanted Bali Maharaj's heart, not his possessions. But if we offer our possessions, that's good for us. But there's nothing there for Krishna. Unless what is it? How did Advaita capture him? With Ganga Jal and a tulsi leaf. And heart infused into that offering. Right. So how happy Krishna is to have the devotee. That was my point. But then if we go a little higher, Vatsalya rasa, like the Raghupati Upadhyay, saying, Shrutim apare shmitim itare barantam anye bhajantu bhava bharatam anye bhajantu bhava vita ahang iha nandam bande Yashalande Param Brahma. Mahabharata, the Shruti, the Smriti, they're all telling you to be dharmic so you can get the Param Brahma. You can have some connection with him. What does he say? Ahangi Nandam Bande. But Nanda Maharaj has the Param Brahma crawling in his courtyard as a toddler. What did he do? I'm more interested in that. Not in some book telling me to live a dharmic life. You think, wait a minute. He has him who you're seeking, he's crawling in his courtyard. And that Krishna, that toddler Krishna, Nandakim akarod brahmam shreya eva mahodayam yashodava mahabhaga papo yasyastanam hari. And even more fortunate than Nanda Maharaj, if we can imagine such. He crawls in the courtyard and then up and onto the lap of Yashoda and is sucking her breast milk. So he jumps from the Vedas, Puranas, Mahabharata into Vatsalya rasa. This is the expertise of Mahaprabhu and his devotees. Remember, Krishna's come down as Mahaprabhu. Just concentrate on what he's saying. You don't have to worry about anything else. He's Krishna. Vedaishcha sarvarahanga vivedyo. All of this is meant to bring you in connection with him. And we still didn't get it, so he comes down and says, shortcut, this way, come this way. Sharanam Braja, just Sarvadharmam Paritraja, forget all that. Do what the Braja Gopis do. That's what pleases me the most. Then I'm yours. That way. So, to Vatsalya rasa, and where what does Kunti say? She's saying, Gopyadade Dvaikrita Dhamma Tava Yate Dushashu Kalilanjana Sambramaksham. She's saying, this is so beautifully bewildering and enchanting at the same time. Yad Vibeti Swayambhayam, whom fear personified is afraid of. That Krishna, his running from his mother and the tears are smearing the kajal on his eyes. So he has the babies, they wear mascara, kajal, and his tears, they're making it run down his face. And she's saying, that's so beautiful, I can't stop thinking about it. And it's so bewildering, but bewildering and beautiful at the same time. And Mother Yashoda's and the saint running after him, threatening him, threatening God. Usually the bad people do that. Here we're told, no, the highest devotees, they're doing that. Yashoda. She's chastised her, and Guru Maharaj said, if she does not chastise Krishna, she's being derelict in her duty, in her service. If she does not chastise Krishna. So then, going for Krishna says, so all these others, Ved, Shruti, is offering all these wonderful panegyrics, prayers, and glorification of the majestic aspect of the infinite divinity. And he says, but if my beloved Sri Radhika, Bhartsan means to curse, scold, if she's cursing me, scolding me, he said, then that steals my mind from these reverential hymns of the Vedas. It's so sweet and irresistible to me. So, in that chapter, he is saying, so I will descend with my beloved devotees and show pastimes, manifest pastimes, display, play, vilas, that things that are unknown in the Vaikuntha world, this type of loving intimacy, right? And Krishna Prem. Ye yatamam prapadyante tangstataiva bhajamyaham. As Krishna says in the Gita, I reciprocate the hearts of my devotees. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja ase shrutekshita pato nanunata pungsang. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja. It's like the heart has as a lotus has an aperture, like the way lotuses unfold and open. That's what this verse is saying. Hrit saroja, tam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja. The lotus of the heart of the devotee is opening and they, as they like to see, remember, if Krishna is subservient to them, they like to see him in a particular way. He is reciprocating that. But what is the way that Srimati Radharani likes to see Krishna? So, Krishna is saying, so I will descend with my devotees and will show these divine pastimes, loving exchanges that are unknown even in the Vaikuntha world. Because in the land of love, where God conception goes to the land of love, mercy above justice, right? Beauty over power, right? Heart over intellect, in that plain, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur condensed it by saying, Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesha Tvanaya Tadama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachid Upasana Brajabadu Bargena Jakalpitai Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumarto Mahan Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatrapi Napara. There is no superior worship than that conceived by Srimati Radharani and the Brajagopis. They invented Krishna consciousness. They have the copyright, trademark. If you look on the lotus feet of Krishna, you know, copyright, trademark, Radharani and Brajagopis. Only they can give Krishna in his sweetest, most beautiful and charming and tasteful aspect, not to be found in the God conception. When, look, even in Narayan, when Krishna played that trick on the Brajagopis, showing the four-armed Narayan, Daya Kunchati. So their Rag Udoy Kunchati means it was crushed, the rag in their hearts, by seeing, you know, four-armed Narayan. And that's why I say, if you understand that, then don't even start talking about other religions or other concepts. Narayan is dismissed by the Brajagopis if you want to understand their standard. Right? Only Krishna, and that Krishna who is at the right hand of Srimati Radharani, Swayam Bhagavan, Rasaraj, ecstasy personified, Sundarananda, Ananda Sundar, Krishna, right? Who is only fully himself with her. Like in this world, people say, you know, oh, I can't fully be myself in this context or with these people or that person. Right? They're searching for someone who, again, accepts them as they are, for who they are, and who they feel so comfortable that they can completely be themselves. For example, Ramachandra is also inconceivably beautiful and divine, is constricted by Rajniti, the parameters of behavior that are appropriate to a king. Narayan of Vaikuntha, there's only Shanta Rasa, Dasya Rasa, and in the case of some old-time servitors, an element of Sakya Rasa, 2.5 rasas in Vaikuntha. Or Sanayodhya, then you have some, but Rupa Goswami, Vaikuntaj Janido Bara Madhupuri Tatrapi Rasotsavad. Guru Maharaj said, he leapt from Vaikuntha to Mathura, Vrindavan. Vaikuntaj Janito Bara Madhupuri. If you recall again, Raghupati Upadhyay, when Mahaprabhu said, oh, I like this, what you've said about just, you know, in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj and the lap of Yashoda, you know, anything more you can say about that? And that's when he says, you know, kam pratikatayi tamishe, kam samprati kam pratitamayatu, gopati tanaya kunje, gopa viduti vitang brahma. There's more to say, but who's qualified to hear it? And it's so astonishing Would you believe it? Or is it too much to digest? It's only in Mahaprabhu's line. No other sampradaya, it is not there. This is, Krishna descends to express these things, to make these things known in the world. And what does he say there? Through the and Raghupati Upadhyay, ostensibly, these verses he's quoting from Madhavendra Puri, right, who expressed what could not be expressed in the Madhva line. Otherwise, what would be the necessity of the Gaudiya Sampradaya? It could not be expressed there. It's beyond what can be conceived there. So he said, that Param Brahma, who Mahabharata, Veda, Upanishad, etc. are searching for, and we said was crawling in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj, then onto the lap of Yashoda. He's hunting the Braja Gopis in the Kunja of Vrindavan. Is there anyone who's qualified to hear this? And will anyone believe it? So, Guru Maharaj wrote an article for the Gaudiya Math, one of the Gaudiya Math publications, and he said, he inverted it saying, I'm paraphrasing, but now that Mahaprabhu has come, people will hear it and they'll believe it. Saying, who can hear this and who will believe it? Mahaprabhu is having these things be expressed. Jari gaur na hoite tabiki hoite, kamari daritam dehe, radhar mahima prema rasasima jagata janata ke. Krishna has come as Mahaprabhu to tell the world about the glories of Srimati Radharani and the Braja Gopis. And it's an expression to say the limits of, but really it's unlimited, the prem, the love of Srimati Radharani and Braja Gopis. So, again, when Krishna tells them that, in the Gita, I said, Ye yatamam prapadyante tamstate, as you surrender to me, I reciprocate that. But na pareham niravadya samyudam. In your case, the sort of love and affection you have for me, I can't reciprocate. Even if I were to give my entire self to you, there wouldn't be equal exchange. So, let virtue be its own reward. But again, Guru Maharaj said, but then if we look to the Chaitanyastakam of Srila Rupa Goswami, the one, Sureshanam, Durgam Gati Ati Shayano Panishadam Muninam Sarva Battalion Madhurima Viniryasha Palam. Anyway, he's saying here, we connect to Rupa Goswami's Chaitanyastakam, then Krishna say, all right, but what I can do, I can't reciprocate, the love you have for me is so great, I can't reciprocate it. But what I can do is, I can descend and tell everyone else how great it is. That's what Guru Maharaj said, is revealed in this verse. Krishna saying, then I'll descend in this world and tell everyone how great are Radharani and the Braja Gopis. Ramya Kachid Upasana Braja Bodhu Bargain Jakalpitai. And if you say, but what is the evidence of this? Srimad Bhagavatam. Right. Vedavyas, having compiled Mahabharata and all these other scriptures, felt, and Prabhupada were despondent. And he's like sitting in his ashram and Saraswati very depressed. And that's when Narada comes in and says, Prabhu, what's wrong? He goes, well, I did this, but people, they're not getting it. they're abusing it. They're using it as an excuse to remain bound in the world. In the name of religion, Narada tells him that. That's what the problem is. It wasn't your intention. And maybe some paramahamsas can extract from there, but the people, they're misusing what you've done to remain in the conditioned world in the name of following religion and Vedavyas. So, Kimba Bhagavata Dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahangsanam tadeva hyachuta priya. Then you have to tell everyone about the glories of Achyuta Priya. That's vast, that's what I need to do. Radharani and the Brajagopis, or Sarva Dharma, they give up all this dharmic pursuit and come to me direct. That's Krishna's message. It's the message of Saraswati Thakur, of the Krishna consciousness movement. Come directly. Answer. What if this resonates with you? Then come now. Guru Umar said, Saraswati Thakur on this topic said that if your house is on fire, let it burn to the ground. And because it's that house and everything in it that's keeping you bound, he says, let it burn to ashes and dedicate yourself today. Don't say, oh, I got to go take care of a few things first. He's saying, no. Even if your house is on fire, let it burn to the ground. But stay here and dedicate yourself today. So the evidence in Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam. This is the pure evidence. Why? In the beginning of Bhagavatam, Dharma projita koita. He says, use the word Dharma, then he says, we reject any so-called Dharma that has some underlying purpose. As cheating. Koitava means cheating. They're using the word Dharma and then cheating. Vyasa says, no more. Not here. Not in the book of Krishna. Dharma praojita kaita votra paramo nirmat saranam satam. And you cannot express any envy towards Sri Radhika and her extensions, the Brajagopis and the great devotees in their line. So, Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam. And what is it? Normally there's Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. What's the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam? Prem. There's Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Prem, Pumarto Mahan. It goes that's four. The fifth. This is what you want. Love, divine love. That's what is presented in the pages of the Bhagavatam through the pastimes of Sri Radhika and the Brajagopis and Krishna. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Pramanamamalam, Prema Pumarto Mahan. Sri Chait, and how do you know all these things? Because Krishna descended as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Matamidam Tatrapi Napara. And he's telling us that there's nothing superior than this. Hare Krishna. So lastly, in conclusion, not only is he not interested in being God, but we find in the page of Charitamrita, he wants to be a devotee. Right? Imagine that. So the supreme personality of Godhead, right? His long cherished, deeply felt, private desire is to experience what it's like to be a devotee. Param kasyapi prani janavrinda sukutuki rasos tamam ritva maduram upabhoktam kamapiya Rucham swam avavre dutim iha tadyam. Sri Chaitanya Devaskritir Atitaram na kripayatu. And not merely any devotee, but the supreme devotee, Srimati Radharani. So Krishna said, when I was at Krishna, there was all this distribution and these pastimes of Krishna Prem, but there was something left unfulfilled for me. And I'm revealing that to you now. I want to experience what she is experiencing. Sri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kiddushobanayeva. What she alone experiences means the highest type of Krishna Prem, Mahabhav Swarupini Radha Thakurani. I want to experience that. So how great is devotion to Krishna? Not only as seen and by default as Krishna, not interested in conventional God role, but he has this desire to descend and taste the sweetness of devotion. It's so wonderful that he wants to be a devotee, and not just any devotee, but as the supreme devotee. Rasa Raj Mahabhav Dui Ekarup. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna.